Hindsight's 50-50. I will do a video probably after this, how to use Room Sketcher, the basics. Look out for that, because that's going to be a that's going to be a doozy. Welcome back to the Renovation Diaries. Basically, the point of this playlist and these videos is just to document the process that Sean and I are going through as we think about purchasing the flat that we're currently renting and renovating it from a 1-bedroom flat to a 3-bedroom flat. So since we started thinking about this project, we've become really excited with the idea of building design, room flow, kitchen theory. I stumbled across a great video the other day that explained the idea of the triangle of work in a kitchen, which basically means you should be able to stand in one place and have access to the fridge, the cooker, and the sink. I think that was the theory. I'll put a link to the video underneath this. But it was just interesting thinking about designing a room with a real purpose rather than just moving into a space and then living there however you can. And that's one of the exciting things that we're currently doing, is thinking about how the flow of the flat will be, how we'll get to each room, what we'll use each room for. It's very exciting. Since we've been thinking about this, we found ourselves watching TV shows like Grand Designs, seeing the process of people building their houses from scratch, taking a flat piece of land, or maybe not so flat piece of land in some instances. We've seen people build lighthouses in the side of a cliff face, which seems a bit ambitious, and we're not we're not going anywhere near that big a project. But the show is a really interesting watch. You get to see these designs go from concept in people's minds right through to the final build, and you get to gauge a price of like how much things might cost. So for example, since we've been watching the show, we've seen people build these brand new houses from scratch for about £600,000, and these are luxury houses and they look incredible. Before we started watching the show, I was quite concerned that the project that Sean and I are undertaking would be a little bit more expensive than I'd like. But seeing people build these things from scratch for such a relatively low price, £600,000 is obviously not cheap, it kind of gave us a little bit of hope that we might be able to do our project for a lot less money than we originally thought, which is great. There was one episode, I think it was the Lighthouse episode, where the people who were building it spent £200,000 on windows alone, which is ridiculous. We're hoping to do the whole renovation of our flat for under £150,000. I mean, wish us luck. If we can't do it, it probably will involve trying to move out and buy a house that's already built to fit our needs. But the purpose of doing this renovation is that we want to stay where we are because the location is unbelievable. We've got views of the sea, we've got the woods just down the road, we've got the parks very close by. It's dead quiet, it's just a lovely area. So after watching a load of Grand Designs and seeing the architect's plans that he returned to us, I've become a bit obsessed with this app called Room Sketcher for the Mac. And the basic idea is that you can create a custom building layout, so you can plan your rooms, put the walls where you want them, add doors, add furniture, and I absolutely love it. I spend the majority of my free time doing this now just to get a concept of how we might organize our living space. And one of the best parts about this app is that it has a camera feature which you can place anywhere in the building, play around with the angles, and take a snapshot of what you would see that gives you an idea of your final project. So I'll put some examples here. I've built the bedrooms, I've built the entire flat really, but then I've started placing furniture where we might like it, taking pictures of what we might see, and it's just really nice to have kind of like something to aim for. We've got visuals now of what we could be living in 2 years' time, and it's just got me really excited. We've been back and forth with the architect. We've refined our ideas based on what he's drawn, and we've given him notes, and he's come back with different ideas based on what we've said. One important thing that we did before we started working with the architect is we set a limit for the amount of work that we wanted him to do. We asked him to do no more than £300 worth of drawings so that we could keep track of how much we're spending in this process. And perhaps one of the mistakes we made is that when he was designing interior spaces, we got very excited about that and kept coming back and forth with the architect. So he reached that £300 limit and he hadn't done any of the external views yet, which is basically the most important part of this project for the time being. Is we need to know how much it will cost to replace the roof entirely. So we need plans for that so that we can speak to builders. In hindsight, what I would have asked him to do is, once we'd had an internal structure that we were kind of happy with, then move on to work on the roof so that we had external views. Hindsight's 50-50. we've had a good experience so far. Basically, we've had to okay him for another £100 worth of work just to get these views and to get a concept of what the new roof structure might look like. So something to consider if you're working with an architect. I would definitely recommend setting a firm limit of how much work you want them to do. You can always up the limit then once they've reached that if you need a little bit more work done, but it's a good idea to keep track of how much you're spending. Plan your money out, budget your money. Even though we've ended up going over it, we've gone over it intentionally rather than just asking him to do a load of work and then being hit with a bill for like £2,000. I would not have been happy with that, but it wouldn't have been his fault if we hadn't given him that definite limit. Sean and I are constantly coming up with different ideas that the other one doesn't like, but I think until you plan it out and you see what it could be, I just think it's important to discuss the ideas. It's ever evolving, you know. We had an idea before we went to the architect of what we definitely wanted. Turns out that idea wasn't that great, and when he came back with his idea, it completely shattered our idea in a good way, and now we've got a much better layout that we think we'll enjoy more. The other fun thing that we've been doing this week is coming up with house names, because when this is all done, we'd like to rename the flat that we're living in. At the moment, my address, the first line is just the flat, which is it's terribly boring, terribly uninspiring, and I don't imagine the postman has a blast looking at that on the letters. So we're going to rename the flat to something else. I will probably save that until we've actually got the flat so that we can have a grand unveiling, which I know everyone who's watching this will be really excited to see in 2 years. Please bear with me for 2 years, because I'm hoping this little video series will be interesting the more we get into the actual work of it. I think we came up with 2 ideas last night. Sean's is a little bit more Polynesian, mine is a little bit more rooted in French. I like mine because there's a little play on words, but I'm not going to say what they are now. We'll reveal that in good time. Thank you for watching. I hope that you got something from this video. You can find my website at www.ollyrosaphoto.com. You can follow me on Instagram at ollyrosaphoto, Twitter at ollyrossa, and I also have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/ollyrossa. I'm not asking you to subscribe to that. The one and only tier that I've got on Patreon is entitled "Your Money Would Be Better Off in a Savings Account," which is true, but now that making these videos is starting to take a lot more time, effort, and money with the setup that I've got, I figure if you get something out of those and you would like to support this channel, you can do so at Patreon. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll speak to you next time.